and sexual orientations. And communicators are the logical candidates to build those bridges in business. And finally, there's the human side, which is probably the part I'm most interested in because I think it's the basics. Respecting diversity is simply the right thing to do. No matter what the talking heads might say, warmth is not a weakness, and sensitivity is not a vice. Basic respect for human dignity means that we appreciate each other's unique cultural backgrounds instead of expecting everyone to be just like us. Now, I'm a straight, Christian, white guy. I'm probably not a poster child for diversity. I'm about as mainstream as it gets. You know, it's a good time to be a straight, Christian white guy. Despite the views of the angry white men, straight Christian white guys still basically run the world. So, you know, it's not bad to be me, but I don't necessarily celebrate that reality. Now, I think the world is better when there are more voices in the chorus, when there are more seats at the table. I think we're enriched and not diminished by people whose experiences are different from ours. And that's why I think a mosaic is better than a melting pot. It drives me crazy when I hear people talking about melting pots. You know what happens when you put a bunch of stuff in a pot and melt it? Everything ends up tasting and looking the same. And that's not my idea of a diverse society. I think when you piece together a mosaic, that's more like it. Each piece retains its unique identity, but it still fits into the whole. And that's what a multicultural society is about, celebrating uniqueness instead of forcing us to pretend we're all the same. So as a straight Christian white guy, I'm not angry about the promise of diversity. I'm excited about it. I know it can only make our world better and it can only make our profession better. And that's why I've made diversity one of my two key priority areas for PRSA Buffalo Niagara this year. In two ways. First, we need to give our members the tools they need to communicate across cultural divides so they can provide value to their employers and clients and make the world a better place. Now, it sounds like a cliche, but I still believe in it. And second, we need to open the doors to our profession, open them wide so that people from all different backgrounds know they have a home here and that our field can reflect the diversity of the publics with which we communicate. I like to say communicators are the storytellers of a society. And if all the storytellers draw from the same narrow experiences, the story's dull. So we need a variety of voices to make the story as rich as it ought to be. And that's why we in PRSA are beginning to reach out to our brothers and sisters in advertising and in journalism and in fundraising communications so we can broaden the horizons of our entire profession. I'd like to conclude by saying that the other major priority for us this year in PRSA is to strengthen our bond with our student chapters. And if you haven't yet joined PRSSA, I strongly urge you to do so. I was a PRSSA chapter president myself, and I really believe in it. We're going to be doing a lot this year with our student chapters. It's going to be a good year to be involved. We'll be looking for you to attend our programs and join some of our committees. And you might be interested in working with us on our just forming diversity committee, which Ellen will be working with us on. So if you're interested, please see me today or ask Dr. Silverman how to contact me. We'd love to have your help in fulfilling the promise of diversity for our profession. And with that, I will hand it over.
So I'll start by saying I'm a female, straight, Jewish American. Now, I didn't say white because I believe that by saying Jewish, I am Caucasian, but it's not the same cultural, historical experience as other Caucasians. So I identify myself as Jewish, and that's really informed a lot of my life, and that I'm going to talk to you about religious and cultural diversity today. As much as we might believe it or not realize it, America is not a Christian country. Some people kind of think it is or take it for granted, but it isn't. We were created as a pluralistic country. Many of our ancestors left where they came from because of religious persecution. Mine certainly did, and I'm sure there are others in this room whose grandparents and great-grandparents did also. What was once mostly a nation whose power structure was white male Protestant has now changed somewhat. Multiculturalism is in play now more than ever, as Jeff was talking about. First, I'm going to talk to you about the concept of religious pluralism. Do you understand? Are you familiar with that term? Well, I'll explain it to you. It is a loosely defined term concerning peaceful relations between different religions, and it's used in a number of ways. First, it's often described as a worldview that one's religion is not the sole and exclusive source of truth, and thus recognizes that some truth lies with other religions. So, in this case, I would say Christianity is not the only source of truth for Americans in America. It's also a synonym for ecumenism, which is also a Christian word, by the way. It's the promotion of unity or cooperation or improved understanding between different religions or denominations within the same religion. It's also a synonym for religious tolerance. I'm also going to talk about the concept of religious freedom in the United States. This was codified in what amendment? Anybody? No? Well, before you take your APR, you've got to know these things. It's the First Amendment that codified religious freedom in the United States. And it means the freedom of each religion to practice. It's the freedom of people to not belong to a religion, to not be religious, and to not practice, to be an atheist. And it's tolerance for religious practice, different religious practices, and also, very importantly, the separation of church and state. That our government is separate from the religion in the country, unlike Iran, for example, where there is no separation of church and state. There are also issues of fundamentalism when we talk about religion. It's not the same as a basic religious belief. But members of religions are owed tolerance even though their beliefs may be intolerant. We have to tolerate the fact that they're certainly allowed to believe what they believe. We may not believe with their views, but we have to respect their right to believe in it, as long as they don't impose it on us. That's the difference. That's religious pluralism. Members of different religions, which include fundamentalists, are not all fundamentalists. They're Christian fundamentalists, but not all Christians are fundamentalists. They're Muslim fundamentalists, but not all Muslims are fundamentalists. They're Jewish